Hello. I got you now. How you doing, buddy? No, yeah, I think it was my settings. That's why I couldn't hear you. My settings got messed up when I plugged in my mic. How's it going?
This is the OMFL.
You can't touch this.
And you're in the mix with Kinda Real Nate. Here's another OMFL production.
Good morning and welcome to Press Pass Live, your weekly podcast show for the OMFL. Thank you so much for tuning in. It is time to talk some Madden, to talk some OMFL. I am your host, Kinda Real Nate, and as always, I got my good buddy Dwayne with me. How you doing today, bud?
It's pretty good this morning. I'm fixing to get my first sip of coffee in, so I'm fixing to get to heaven with that one.
Yeah, I tried to get to the coffee and couldn't make it happen this morning. LSU's already playing, so I'm sacrificing for you guys. I'm missing my LSU Tigers right now, so we're going to probably make this pretty short and sweet so I can go finish watching that game. Plus, I'm moving, and so it's time to start packing and haven't eaten lunch yet, no coffee. Man, I'm just all messed up, so here we go. Let's jump right into it. As always, we like to start off with our hot button topics, games that just took place. So we're going to look at weeks 7 and 8. I'm going to toss this one over to Mr. Dwayne. Tell me, what was your favorite game from week 7 or 8?
It was week 7. It was the Dolphins and Bengals game. A game usually really highly contested. It's two teams that play each other quite a bit. And the Miami Dolphins snuck out with a 34-31 victory over, we all know, a very, very tough Bengals team. This was a heck of a game, really tight the whole way through. You go through some statistics, the Dolphins just off the table. I mean, just 231 passing yards, 213 rushing yards. I mean, anytime you can have a 200 game, that's ridiculous. They had 6 sacks. They did turn the ball over twice, but like I said, when you run the ball 200 times for over 200 yards, you should win the game. But then you go across the board, you look at the Bengals, and they had almost 200 yards passing and 190 yards rushing. And they only turned the ball over once, and were actually 56% compared to 43 on third down like the Dolphins were. I think the telltale sign of this game, Mariota went down during this game. He was 4 for 5, 82 yards, a touchdown to pick before he went down. That's a big thing. Even though he did play well with McCarron, 8 for 15 for 157 and a touchdown. Big difference between Marcus Mariota and A.J. McCarron. He's going to start going down just go keep on the Bengals side. James White, 9 carries, 138 yards. Mariota, 2 carries, 33 yards. Go down receiving core, who has a very, very underrated receiving core the Bengals do. John Ross, 2 catches, 75 yards. Michael Thomas, ex-Saint, 4 catches, 110 yards. A.J. Green had come with 2 catches. Henderson comes in with 2 catches. Defensively, Atkins comes up with 2 sacks, and Bates the third, and Jackson each get a pick. You go over the Dolphins side, and Nicholas has a solid game. He does throw 2 picks, but 12 for 19. That's like 65% passing, 250 yards. Kenyon Drake had a big game. I know he's been really wanting to break out with him all season. 22 carries, 168 yards, 2 touchdowns. Chris Carson, 9 carries, 36 yards. You go down to the receiving game, and he was way more one-sided in the receiving game than the Bengals were. Sorry, I'm twisting all my words up this morning. Way more one-sided, but I guess it worked out. Kenny Stills, 8 catches, 171 yards, a touchdown, and then he had 4 different receivers with 1 catch. You go defensively, he goes down. Joseph has 3 sacks. McMillan, McCoy, Poling have a sack, and Baker has an interception. And like I said, I think the telltale sign here in this one, Mariota goes down. The Bengals lose a little bit of their firepower. Even with the Dolphins' turnovers, it's still enough with Drake running as strong as he did to get this win here. And it's a huge win for them.
No, bless you.
Sorry about that. Thank you. This is a big win for the Dolphins. They hadn't come out of the gate as fast as they wanted to. And to win this game right here, this is a huge win. And for the Bengals, I do think it's a bump in the road. I think we all know the Bengals are – if I had to be a bet man, I'd bet on them to make the playoffs every year. But this is a bump in the road, and kind of shows that they are vulnerable a little bit, especially without Mariota in there. And I know he kind of searched for a quarterback there, I think, after this game. I don't think anybody did trade him a quarterback. At least if they did, it slid past me. But this was a good game to me. It was a really fun game to watch just because these are 2 perennial AFC powers. Neither one of them having quite the season they want to have so far. This shows you on any given day you can have a great game like this, and the Dolphins come out with a much, much needed win here.
Is Mariota going to be down for a while?
I don't think so. I could be wrong. I actually did not investigate that one further. I know he was looking for a quarterback, but I also know he's just been frustrated with Mariota for a while now. And I can speak for volumes when he played me. Mariota missed some passes that, we've talked about before, Nate. Somebody that's a really good quarterback just misses passes that he shouldn't miss. So I don't know if it was just out of frustration that he was looking for somebody or if he was actually injured long. But I don't think he was injured any longer, or I think since he would have found a way to make a trade.
Yeah, we're getting a little feedback, so I got to apologize for that. I'm not quite sure what's causing it, and it happens sometimes, and so I'm trying my best to figure it out as we do the podcast here and get it to go away, but I apologize for that. I'm going to go to the Minnesota Vikings and Detroit Lions. I think this game actually just happened last night, if I'm not mistaken. The Detroit Lions come away with a 27-23 victory to go to 3-4. Vikings and their new owner Tim, who's starting to get some things figured out, fall to 4-3 after, I think, if I'm not mistaken, a 3-0 start before their owner decided that he needed to walk away. This was just a back-and-forth game between 2 teams that actually came down to a play made in the end zone. The Vikings had got it inside, I wanted to say, he told me, inside the 10-yard line with just seconds left to play, ended up forcing a pass, trying to get one over to Diggs. The Detroit Lions play free safety, and so he was trying to go away from the free safety. He had Diggs on 101, and Diggs did not make the play. Instead, I want to say it was Potter. I think it was Potter that made the play on Diggs. He ends up coming away with the interception in the end zone to come away with a 27-23 victory. Weston for the Vikings goes 18 of 27, 2 touchdowns, the 1 big interception, but 269 yards in the air. Harvey for the Lions had a really good game on the ground, 18 for 79. Hunt struggled, only 5 for 4 over there. You see, though, that Mallette had a really great game over here for the Vikings receiving. 6 catches, 113 yards. It was Rudolph, though, that came away with the touchdown. Of course, Aggers got a touchdown himself. Murray struggled, 8 attempts for 41 yards. Cook, 7 for 27. And Weston had 3 for 18. So you can see that they're trying to figure out exactly how they want to play this run game, who's going to get a bulk of the carries. But a really, really big win for the Detroit Lions as they try to get back on top. We talked about them last week. Of course, our guest came on and was talking about how he thought the Lions are going to be up there and the Packers talk and all that other stuff. And so the Lions are really trying to make a run at it here. And they're going to have to string a couple of these victories together, though, if they're going to make it work. Because so far they've dug themselves a hole that's going to take them a little bit to get out of. Let's look at just the conferences in general. And I think that this has been – it's turning out – to be a very weird year where we've really going to start to see a mix-up of teams that make the playoffs, a mix-up of teams that don't make the playoffs. My internet is also acting really slow. I do not know why. It'll be great. I can't wait to get into our new house. I'm going to get that 300 megabyte download, and that's going to be twice as fast as what I got here. So hopefully that'll fix some of these little internet issues here. But it's been a really weird season where outside of, the Falcons, Panthers, Seahawks, like no one's really running away with the NFC. And then if you look over here at the AFC, if I can get this to switch over, right, you got teams like the Jets and the Browns and the Titans, the Raiders, right, all leading their conference. And so it makes for a really weird figuring this out, like figuring out the landscape of who's going to fall where up to this point. So let's just talk about the biggest surprises from each conference so far. We'll start with the NFC before we move over to the AFC. And I have to say that my biggest surprise so far has to be the Carolina Panthers. I mean, they're sitting there at 5-1. They're putting up 29 points, only allowing 22. They're 1-0 at home. They've had a lot of road games, but they're coming out of those games at 4-0. They're 1-1 in the division, and they're hanging tight right there with the Atlanta Falcons, and that is a really good thing because the Falcons are a tough team. I mean, the Falcons are scoring almost 30 points a game, only allowing 12. That's got to be close to number one in both of those stats in the league, if not number one. You got the Seattle Seahawks also hanging right there with them, but they're only scoring 21 and allowing 15. And they're the Carolina Panthers. I mean, they're quietly had a really solid offseason, and they're hanging tough in a tough NFC South where the top 3 teams have 15 wins combined. Overall, they're 15-4 in the NFC South in those top teams, and the Bucs are no team to shake your nose at. That is a really good team that just has struggled this year, and so that's going to be my pick in the NFC. I think you also have to mention the Bears at 4-4. They've battled with a team that a lot of players would not be able to win with. I'm also going to say a big surprise is going to be the Rams. 0-6, just didn't see that coming. I mean, he's allowing 33 points on defense. It's just way too much. He's got to get that defense figured out, but he has a lot of talent. He's had some really great drafts, I should say, and he's just got to put it all together. The Eagles have been a little bit of a surprise with their struggles. You'd expect the Redskins to bounce back, and they've started to figure some things out here lately. The Packers, 1-5, not expected from that team. And then you got to get a little nod to the Cardinals at 4-3-1. I expected them to be like a one-loss team at this point and be right there with the Seattle Seahawks. So my biggest surprise is going to be the Carolina Panthers, followed really closely by the Los Angeles Rams. I just expected them not to be winless at this point. What's your biggest surprises in the NFC?
Well, like I said, the Panthers are one that is surprising. You knew they had in them. It's surprising, which is even more surprising. Look at him and the Falcons, that they've only played one home game each. That's a hell of a way to start a season. But if you go through there, some of these ones you kind of mentioned the Packers. I know we kind of roasted the Packers, but we stayed on the Packers quite a bit last PPL, and for him to be dropping out the way he is right now is kind of it's kind of odd. And then you touched on the Rams being 0-6 to a team that has a lot of talent. He's drafted well. But that division, it spares no one. It's a really hard division to grow in. I mean, there's not there's sure no slow, steady improvement in that division. I mean, you just get beat down by 3 other teams in that division they've played really, really well. And then you go up to NFC East, and you got like Massimo and the rest of the NFC East trio down there just hanging out at 2-5. It's like it's kind of surprised, especially Dawson, which I know he's going to miss this week, and he might miss next week being on a trip. And Pepper, we kind of, I think Pepper came out with a big win to start out, and he's kind of stumbled out of the blocks. And I think he won this week. And the Eagles have had 2 big wins, but he can't just put, he just can't put it together as a whole. I think he's beat the Chargers and the Raiders, and that's two great, two really good teams. But if my biggest surprise, I would have to say is it's really tough because I would have to go with the whole NFC North, because I think with Tim taking over the Vikings, that's a whole different. He brings a whole different thing than Duvall did. I think he's 100 times more explosive on offense than Duvall ever was. I think Duvall was a really good owner and a really good player, but his offensive explosiveness with Tim there is going to be something the NFC North hasn't seen in a little while. But I'm going to have to go with the Bears, kind of like you touched on them. They're 4-4. I honestly had this toss-up in this division between the Lions and Vikings, especially how the Bears, really just kind of dropped the ball last year. I thought the Lions and Vikings would be fighting for this one, especially with Tim moving over. And like I said, this could happen with Tim moving over. I think they're 1-2 since he's moved over, or 1-2. I want to say 1-2, maybe 1-3. And he's kind of stumbled out of the gates, but he's going to figure out that team eventually. But I would have to go with the Bears. And I know they won a game last night against your Saints. I didn't get to watch all of it. Anytime you get a win against the Saints, that's just a win that most people can't write down as a win on their schedule. But he's riding that fine line right now at 22 points scored, 20 points against. He's averaging. I mean, just across his board, he's like straight up offense, defense. He gives up the same amount as he's doing. He's not doing nothing special right now. But he's winning games, and he's staying alive in that division. Where that division, you can be a 500 team and win that division. So as long as you can, I hate to say tread water, but you tread water and you win the games you're supposed to win, and hope that you pull out the games that you should win. If you pull out 1 or 2 of those, you put yourself in position to make the playoffs. And once you get in the playoffs, anything can happen.
Yeah.
You go through his team. He's nothing. I hate to say the word, like, nothing sticks out to you, because some guys, I like to look at statistics, but some guys just don't care as long as they win. They don't care what their statistics. But Trubisky is just, I think we touched on last week, is just having a so-so year. 9 touchdowns, 12 picks. Precise, Howard, Cannon, all 3 of them are 187 yards to 342 running the ball, and that attributes a lot to Howard being hurt this year. You go to Triplett, Humes, Miller. They're all just 17 catches to 27 catches, 250 yards to 475 yards. He's got a good trio of guys right there. And defensively, he's got one of the best linebackers in the league, and Raquan Smith at 30. He only got 30 tackles and an interception. He does have a guy, Leonard Floyd, with 7 sacks. And I think I talked to him not too long ago. He said Leonard Floyd just leads the way for that defense, being kind of a hybrid linebacker, defensive end. He just kind of sets the edge and sets the tone for that defense. And I think in this division, defense wins this division. You got 4 teams here that like to play defense, and I know Priest likes to play offense, but right now he's got to figure it out. And with the Vikings coming in, he's very underrated on the defensive side of the ball, Tim is, but his calling card is offense, and it's going to be interesting to see how his offensive calling card matches up against this Bears team or double zeros. He's always been a vaunted defense. And then Priest, like I said, Priest is very underrated on the defense side. I know he turns the ball over 40 times a season, but he wants to air it out so bad. But his defense is very underrated, and his defense is what keeps him in most games. If you turn the ball over that much, your defense, you put him in a rough spot, and I think they've came calling on a few of those. But I do think the Bears are a team that surprised me, like I said, because I honestly thought this might be a 2-man division with the Lions and Vikings, and especially with Tim joining the division, I thought it would be even more of a 2-man division.
Yeah, that's been a tough division to figure out in the OMFL for many, many years. They're always just all kind of hovering about 500, and rarely, in the NFC East, South, and West, you always have those teams that just kind of run away with it, or like a 2 and 3 loss team. You never see that in the North. At least we haven't seen that in a very, very long time. Let's look over the AFC and talk about our surprises there. I think my number one surprise and disappointment, really, my number one surprise is going to be the Browns. I mean, they're 5-2. chaotic, has these moments where things start to click and he puts it together and he makes a run, and that defense seems to be getting some things figured out. They're only allowing 20 points a game. He's 3-1 at home, 2-1 on the road, which is really, really good, and he's finding some offensive firepower, putting up 24 points a game. I think right there with him, though, you got to talk about the Steelers at 4-3. I mean, he's hanging right there, 22 points for, 20 points against, 2-1 at home, struggled a little bit on the road at 2-2. What's going to hurt him is that he is 1-2 in the division. And then staying in that division, you got to talk about the Ravens as my greatest disappointment here, right? At 2-4, he's personally been sick as a human, and so that kind of got him off to a slow start. I think he's had a hard time figuring out how he's going to put this defense together. And look, he's 2-3 at home. You have to win your home games. 0-1 at the road, and then already in a big hole at 0-2 in the division, putting up 22 points but allowing 21 points. That's going to be tough to bounce back from. If you look at the AFC South, you got to talk about the Titans at 4-1, the Jaguars at 3-4. Those are two surprises and disappointments. The Texans at 1-6. Didn't expect to see that from them. Maniac over in the West is still trying to figure that team out. The Broncos at 2-4. He just has struggled this entire Madden trying to put his team together. But you got to talk about the Raiders as a surprise at 4-3 and leading that division. They kind of look very similar to that NFC North division, where like who's going to step up and take hold of this division. Raiders are 3-0 on the road, 1-3 at home. That's really strange. You're going to have to figure that out if you're going to take this division. The great thing, though, he's already 3-1 in his division, and that's going to really set him up for success to win this division. And then finally, looking at the East, you got to talk about the Jets at 5-2, 26 points for, 24 against. That worries me a bit. 2-1 at home, but you love his road record at 3-1. He's already 2-0 in the division. The Bills are trying to figure it out. The Patriots have their new owner and Rob, and then we talked about the Dolphins already. So everyone is still very much in the hunt there in the East, but you got to tip your hat to Clyde and his Jets, because he's definitely got some things figured out. Who's your biggest surprises and disappointments here from the AFC?
My biggest surprise, hands down, is going to be chaotic Browns. I think we've all known that he's always put together one of the most talented teams, always has. I think the most wins he's ever had since I've been here was 9, and I think he missed the playoffs by a game. And I want to say that was either last season or season 4 last. And he's slowly putting together. We've always said if he could put together offense to go with this defense, he'd be scary. And his defense is giving up 20 points a game, which is honestly more than what he usually does. But he's scoring more points. And so I'm sure he's taking the trade-off, being 5-2, and he's 2-0 in that division. It's his division right now to lose. As long as he keeps on the same pace he's on, this could be his division for the first time. I think it shows wonders. I think he's one of the best GMs we have here. I think he puts together. He does a little bit of everything. He trades a little bit. He doesn't overspend it for agency, but he does play a little bit in there. But he's probably one of your best drafters here. And I think he's slowly put it together on the offensive side of the ball, and we've always said that's what he was lacking. I think he's my biggest surprise on that side, and I say that because the Jets. I can't remember when we played, but say
that again. You broke up really long for like a 3 or 4 seconds there.
I said Clyde doesn't surprise me because he whooped my ass for one. And so I couldn't expect him to play like this. But I've seen Clyde before when he was with the Titans. I've seen Clyde play really good, and he's always even when we were in the OMFL 2 together, me and him played in the same division there, and it was really always real super tight rivalry back and forth. And he's always been a really good player. So I kind of expected him to wake up out of that division because he's kind of underperformed so far this cycle. The Patriots are going to be interesting with the new owner. The Bills at 3-3 have to be a surprise for a team that won, I think, 1 game last year.
Yeah.
I think you have to pat him on the back there. I think he's played really good so far. The Dolphins
3-1 at home too.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, you got to win. I've always said that. I've said that from day one. You got to win the game you're supposed to win. And a home game to me, it's home cooking. You need to win your home games. And the Dolphins, you look at them, it's kind of we talked about him beating the Bengals earlier, kind of a shock. A guy who's kind of dominated that division. Him and the Patriots have battled each other, and he's kind of took a step back this season. And not really sure why. I don't know exactly what changed for him over there, but let's hope Kevin gets figured out. I always cheer for Kevin deep down there. And then you got the NFC or AFC West. It's always kind of reminded me a little bit of the NFC North, just like they were the Wild Wild West version of the NFC North. Because this division, you don't ever come in here. You want to come in here on the show. The Raiders, Chargers, Broncos, Chiefs. You kind of touched on them. The Chiefs get me because I honestly thought defense would be his problem. He's only averaging 18 points a game. I thought with that offense he's got that he would just be blowing points out of the water on that side. I thought the defense would be what holds him back. And I know he's not doing it right now, but if anybody ever sleeps on Maniac right there.
Oh, you're going to get hammered.
Yeah, I was going to say, Maniac will put it to you real quick, and don't let 2 and 4 deceive you. The Raiders have started out good. The Bill and his Chargers have started out good. And then, like I said, you go to the AFC North. I know we talked about the Browns, the Steelers, the Bengals. I'm not sleeping on either one. The Steelers have played really good. I'm not sleeping on either one of those teams. The Steelers have played really good so far this season, but we've seen glimpses of what he could be. Especially when he plays. I've always said he kind of plays up to his competition. He always plays the Bengals tooth and nail, and he loses games that he shouldn't lose. You got to win your games you're supposed to win throughout the season.
Yeah.
And I know that I probably beat that. I've said that over and over again. You got to win the games, and I never knock an opponent like I'm supposed to beat you. But as you get farther in the season, there's games you're supposed to win, and there's games that are toss-ups. And I always said, last week I played Mo and the Seahawks. That's a toss-up game to me where I hope I win that game. I lost. Now I would rather win the game, but that's one of my toss-up games throughout the year that I need to win. I really want to win. But you got on the Ravens. The Ravens shocked me. He's actually scoring more points than he's given up, but he's 2 and 4 this season. I'm not really sure what the Ravens got going on. I know he came on the blocks 0-3. If I'm not mistaken, he was gone for 2 or 3 weeks, and he kind of dug himself a hole that's going to be really tough in that division to come out of. And then you go to the AFC South. The Jaguars have been playing real good. I think they've lost 3 games in a row, 2 games in a row, or something like that, because for a second there, they were leading the division early in the season. Outlaw's got his work cut out for him. He's got the Texans. He does have some really bad contracts, and if you ask him, he'll tell you that. He got some really rough contracts over there. And the Texans, just out of the box, have some really rough contracts. And he's doing a good job. He's staying real competitive with that team. But, man, it's a lot like the NFC West right here is you got 3 teams above you that are just throwing haymakers at each other, trying to establish the division leader here. And the Titans are only going to get better. Tim was a great owner with the Titans. Played really good football, gave me a lot of fits, and Big Hurt's going to be the same way. Big Hurt is probably a more seasoned vet here, of course, than Tim, but he brings a whole nother dynamic to that team. I don't know if he's quite as offensively dynamic, and I say that because Tim's really offensively dynamic. And Big Hurt can score some points on you, but Big Hurt will shut you down on defense too. It ought to be interesting to see what he brings to this division. He's already got a head start. Like I said, I think he's won every game since he took over this Titans team. But, yeah, my biggest surprise to me, the Browns. I know I rambled on there, but the Browns are my surprise team, and my disappointment team right here is going to be the Ravens. I just kind of expected more, but like I said, I think he missed 3 games from being gone.
Yeah.
And so he's 2-1, maybe 1-1 since he's came back. But so far he's got to be my disappointment, and I hope you don't hold that against me, Puerto Rican Nibble.
Oh, he'll probably record your voice and throw it on a highlight reel of some sort. I want to go back to the Texans real quick. I hear him about maybe some bad contracts, but bad contracts don't make you give up 30 points a game. Like, that's on you. Like, that's your defense. And honestly, not to call Outlaw out, like, he is – that his bread and butter is going to be on the defensive side of the ball. When he wins football games, it's because he's playing outstanding defense, and his offense is really steady with that run game and with that efficient pass game. Look, it's the classic Dwayne system of winning here. He's giving up 30 points a game. You got to figure that out, and you're 0-3 at home. So if you can figure those 2 things out, you can turn this team around.
Right.
But that has nothing to do with contracts. We're trying to put in some like new systems here and try some new things as we kind of go along. And one of those things that we really want to try to do is something that, Dwayne, you came up with, and that's a team spotlight. So tell us about the team spotlight that you have this week and the questions that you reached out to that team about.
Yeah, I've always liked the team spotlight. I've been really interested in doing it. 'Cause I remember when I first started out that I loved when you and Brady, and that shows how far back we're going, that you and Brady talked about, specific teams and how I kind of got a little giddy when Falcons. And so I kind of like the fact that some of these teams don't get touched on as much. Not always because of wins and losses, just because some owners are lower key than other ones. Some don't quite put as much time here as other ones do, and some of them just aren't. I don't know if they're just not real outgoing guys, honestly. But yeah, I think I can't remember who we talked about last week. I want to say it was maybe we picked on. Yeah, we got the Bears in. Last week.
Yeah, the Bears came on. That's right.
And I tried to get Savante and the Eagles. I kind of mentioned to him about coming on. He might have been busy today, but I just asked him a few questions, and I don't know how you want me to go about
Yeah, just tell us the questions and his responses, and then we can kind of talk about his team. He wasn't able to join us today for a live session of this, so we still wanted to do his team spotlight. And I know that you asked him some things about his team and kind of how he's building it. So just kind of let's read through the questions, and we can read off his responses.
Oh, my first question to him, he said, "What's your biggest obstacle been since taking over the Eagles?" And if you all know, I think he started off with the Cardinals, and they went from the Cardinals to the Eagles. His response, he said, "One biggest obstacle has been dealing with bloated contracts." There's our contracts again. "It's been tough as I haven't been able to participate in free agency as much, and I lost Wentz after my first season with the team." Now with him on that one, I know he lost Wentz. I want to say Andrew just let Wentz go in free agency. Didn't try to get him back. Didn't try to do anything. And I imagine losing a franchise quarterback like that in free agency with nothing in return is a pretty big hit.
Look, and he's rebuilt it with a decent little rookie. I mean, the rookie is a rookie. He's going to have some growing pains here. But that's tough to lose Wentz, right? And look, yes. The Rams lost Goff. I mean, he's sitting over here on the Saints roster. It's just – but that's the beautiful thing about the way this league is set up is that, like, there's going to be those movements. And I know that he lost Wentz, but at the same time, he gained people like Bell and other players, right, to come over into his team. So that's definitely a big loss and does take – it puts you into rebuilding mode probably quicker than he expected he would be.
Well, yeah, like I said, it's one of the ones where I think Andrew kind of valued getting Bell in that running game overpaying for a quarterback the way he did. And, to each his own. And I've always said that until this year, and I'm paying Wentz as my highest paid player. And I think that's the first time since I've been here that I've played a quarterback like this. I feel it's been worth it. But, to each their own. People build their teams the way they want to build them. My second question with him, I got 6 questions. What do you think of your NFC rivals? I said, don't hold back. Talk bad about them as bad as you want to talk about. He didn't talk bad about y'all, unfortunately. He said, talk about obstacles. My 3 NFC East rivals have made my life very difficult when it comes to winning division games. He said, what can I say? All 3, they all play a great game, can beat you defensively, and they all have potent offenses. And I think he's really nice to y'all 3 there. I gave him a chance to take some shots at y'all, and he was too nice. But he does have 3 really tough. You have Pepper, who's probably one of the best defensive coaches here.
Dawson as well.
Dawson and Pepper kind of come in a different way. Pepper wants to beat you up front. Dawson, more of a hybrid defense. But he does play really good, and the two different kinds of offenses there. He wants to run with Barkley, and I don't blame him. And then he wants to force the ball to Beckham. Dawson's a little more spread around, and then you got the Cowboys who just have put together one hell of a team over there. And he's kind of ran that division since the day one of this Madden. But I do think he's kind of in a tough spot, kind of like we talked about Outlaw in our division, and we talked about Crazy Man in that Rams. This division's a loaded division. You got. I want to say everybody, not talking about Savante, the other 3 have all won division titles here. And so you got a very loaded NFC East.
Yeah, it's really tough. A lot of great defensive players. But I really would like to see somebody step up and challenge Massimo. And, competition brings out the best of us. And when you're just able to coast to division championships every single season, you probably get rest on your morals a little bit. So I'm hoping that one of these teams can step up and really push him. And hopefully the Philadelphia Eagles can get this team figured out with this rookie quarterback and start to challenge them.
So my third question, I said, you've had some big wins this season. What if anything, have you changed your game? And he's kind of laughed at me before. I think when he beat the Raiders earlier this season, I said, man, it was a good win, a big win. He said, oh, man, it's just my first win. And I've always told him, man, you got to enjoy each win, no matter how many wins you got, especially against some of these guys here. You got to enjoy each win. And his answer was, he said, well, first off, I've only had 2 wins so far this season. He said, I wouldn't really call them big wins. I think the biggest difference was I was able to run the ball. He said, I didn't turn the ball over, and I played better on defense. and that's a recipe for success. He said, I've been struggling with throwing interceptions, giving up big yards, especially on third downs. So if I can be successful on the ground and try to control the clock and not give up big chunk plays on defense, maybe I'll be able to get a few more wins this season. And I think he's found that recipe for success there. Run the ball, don't turn it over, and limit big plays. And the bottom just fell out here in Arkansas with the rain. But I think he's got a recipe, especially in that division he's in. There's no room for error in that division. You turn the ball over against Dawson, Pepper, Massimo, and you just start seeing that scoreboard light up on their side, and there's no coming back. I think he had 2 huge wins. He beat the Raiders and Jay Bowles, who's like I said, we were just talking about him. He leads the NFC West division, and he beat Bill and the Chargers, who's tied for the lead in the NFC or AFC West division. 2 big games, and you'd like to see him kind of channel those big games because those are 2 perennial playoff teams, and he beat both those guys. You would like to see him build on that and take that success and put it to his own division and make a dent in that division he's in.
Yeah, look, winning in the OMFL is not easy, but not confusing. You don't turn the ball over. You establish a run game. You play good defense. If you can do those 3 things, then you'll win more games than you lose here. And I think that's where the Eagles even said that he has struggled with this rookie quarterback, forcing too many passes. Look, I think at times in every league, especially here, we're not immune to it, that guys will lean on that zone defense. And when you play zone, you gotta hope that your offensive line gives you time to pick it apart, and you got to be smart with your throws. And you got to know when you got to eat it and when not to eat it. Look, man, defense a lot of times is going to be easier to beat, and you don't have to think as much on man. They're either open or they're not, and you can decide that pretty quickly. Whereas in zone, you got to kind of let things develop. You got to be patient, and you got to make smart decisions. And sometimes some of us struggle, and that's definitely been a struggle for them.
Very true. My next question, he said, I asked, have you started picking out your yet? If not, what position are you leaning towards? He did give me a short, sweet answer on this one. He said he hadn't picked one out yet. It'll be either be an offensive line or maybe a linebacker. That seems like a safe choice. I mean, a lineman's always a safe choice to pick, and I think coming into this Madden, a lot of guys wish they had brought their lineman because we did have a really weak, offensive line starting this cycle. And the first season or 2, the free agency market was really, really dry on offensive linemen. I'll go ahead and just go to that 5th question. There's not a lot to go with that 4th one. He said, do you like to base your offense on running, passing, a well-balanced attack? And what's one aspect you'd like to prove on? And he said, well, I would really like to be a great passing offense, but my struggles throwing interceptions have led me to be more of a rushing attack. Really, to win in this league, you need to be more balanced. And that's what I want to improve on, and just eliminating turnovers. And that kind of goes back to what you just said earlier, running the ball, cutting down turnovers. And there's only a few owners here that can pass the ball 350 yards a game and win consistently. Because if you're throwing the ball that much, you're going to turn the ball over. That's just a given.
Yep.
I look at somebody like, you just look at Houday, Cincyberg, 2 guys right there who can air it out with the best of them and still win games. It takes something different. Look at somebody like the Broncos. Glaze is somebody who hasn't, he hasn't shown hasn't translated wins this year, but somebody who likes to pass the ball a lot. It takes a lot because, like I said, you turn the ball over so much when you pass the ball. Or I say turn it over so much, you put yourself in position to turn the ball over. If you're running the ball, what can't happen? You can't get intercepted. I've always lived by that. If you run the ball, you can't throw an interception. I'll let you elaborate on that, Andy, if you want to elaborate.
I think I hit it to begin with. I think he said it, right? What's the word I'm looking for? The formula to win in the OMFL is not confusing and it's not hard, but you got to go do it, right? And you have to be disciplined enough to go out there and fight out those really tough defensive games, to refuse to throw interceptions. And then sometimes I really think you just fight Madden. And sometimes you make the right read, you make the right choice, and it still doesn't work out for you. And you got to suck it up and you got to move on to the next week. And I think that if you just stick to that formula and you build that formula around what you're good at, right? If you build that formula around what your team is good at and you set yourself up in a balanced way, and the way our rules are set up is to force teams on offense and defense to play balanced. and you stick with that formula and you build your team around to fit your strengths and stay balanced, then you'll win more than you lose.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. You set yourself up in position to win more games that way. Um, on this last question, which is, it's kind of a loaded question because, most people are going to give you a similar answer. I said, what can you expect out of your Eagles rest away this season and the rest of Madden 19? He said, I just want to keep getting better, build on what I've done right, and correct the things that hurt me on the field. And it's kind of like you just said, you build on what you did right, you run the ball, or whatever's successful for you, you cut down turnovers, play good defense, and, Madden will reward you with wins, we hope. I've heard people all the time, Madden took this game from me. Madden decided from the kickoff who won that game, and I don't completely agree with that. Now, I do think, you go in some games sometimes. I've told people that before, that went into the game, it felt like I went to games where it felt like, and a lot of them were against Nate. I'll go ahead and kick that off, where it felt like the lanes were wide open. I get 15 yards of carry, and I've also felt like went to games where I fought the whole game for 3 yards of carry. And it's a mentality. If you go into that game, and I'm speaking to Svante too on this one. If you go into that game and you feel in the first possession the Madden's against you and you're going to lose this game, you're probably going to lose this game.
Yeah.
You got to take control of that yourself, and you can't. I've told a couple people that, which I am a positive Pete. If anybody's a positive Pete, I try to be a positive Pete all the time. You gotta take the good with the bad, but you control your own destiny in this. You can't just get down the very first drive or go into, like, when you play Mo and go in that game, be like, well, I'm gonna lose this game. And when he punches you out that first play, you just lay over and take it. You control your own destiny here in the OMFL.
Yep. Let's talk about some imports. You've kind of been on an import kick here, and you're really riled up to start thinking about imports. We can kind of just talk about what we think about when we think about imports. I have to be honest, I do not even remotely think about imports until the last season. And when we get into that draft, that last draft that we're going to have, then I start thinking about, okay, how can I set myself up to have the best type of import? Because to me, it's just not worth worrying about. I know, like, Outlaw gets on a big kick worrying about imports and how when you're picking your import and who you're thinking about. Like, I don't think about any of that stuff until the last season. And for me, I don't necessarily worry about age as much. I bought over in Madden, what was that? Madden 18. I bought over wide receiver Forbes from Madden 17, and he retired here, right? He was in his late 30s before we finished Madden 18, because he was like a 27-year-old when I bought him over. My linebacker that I bought over this year was only 24 years old. And so it's not really an age thing for me. It's going to be looking at my team out of the box. Where are going to be an area where either I'm getting old quick, where I have a big contract that I want to get out of because of age or because of money, or where is a weakness, and trying to, like, use those 3 points in my out-of-the-box team to kind of guide where I go with my import and to kind of help me make that decision. And so it's not one thing that I look at. I kind of look at a map of several different things. And so this past year, I knew that the Saints were going to have some aging linebackers, and I also knew that there were some young athletic linebackers, and that if I could bring over my linebacker who was only 24, that it would pretty much set that linebackers for the rest of Madden, right? Like, I wouldn't have to worry about it for 3, 4, 5 seasons maybe, and I could really concentrate on other areas of my team. And it happened to be that, one of my top 3 highest rated players was my import that I could bring over. And so I really kind of try to make the best decision financially and overall wise to fit the needs of that out-of-the-box team. But no, I haven't started to think about it. I won't even let it enter my mind until we get to that last draft. When we enter that last offseason before the last season, that's when I'll really start to think, okay, what do I think the Saints are going to look like out of the box? Of course, we won't have ratings or anything, but what do I think is going to be their weak area? Where do I think they'll be strong? I thought the Saints were going to be super strong out of the box this past year on offensive line, so that was another reason I didn't bring over one of my stud import offensive linemen, and come to find out they actually were terrible out of the box. And so sometimes it can backfire, but you try to think about your team. I happen to be a Saints fan, and so I kind of know, like, next year, right, it's going to be receiver. It's going to be quarterback. It's maybe going to be cornerback, right? And so there's some areas that I'll think about, but I really won't make that decision until we enter that last season. How about you?
I'm one. I've never. I think the guy, Jacoby Land. I picked him. I want to say the last draft, and he just didn't play all season. All I did was try to build up depth traits. So actually, I will say that I think I picked him up 2 seasons. I picked him up, I guess you said the off season going into season 5. And for 2 seasons, I just trained him, focus trained him. He did get a little bit of, I guess you'd say, like special teams work, but he didn't get nothing special. He didn't get to start or anything like that. And he was a safety who I transferred to a cornerback. But I guess you could say you got to take a lot of factors in. I've seen guys pull over. I want to say like the Broncos pulled over Gilbert Nixon. I can't remember. I think he was on a cheap deal until like the first or second year, and that's what you have a problem with. Like if you draft a guy 2 or 3 drafts out going into the next Madden, is that first second season he's going to ask for a re-sign, and then you got a really expensive guy. And I think I've always looked at the import was honestly I think Lamb was 3 seasons. I think I got him that 3rd season I had to re-sign him, and that was part of drafting him 2 years early. Is you get a really cheap, usually really good guy for 3 to 4 seasons.
Yep.
And I think, kind of like you said, I think you got to look at your own team. You also got to look at, I don't think any of us thought the offensive lines would be as bad as they were this Madden. Kind of like you said, the Saints have one of the best offensive lines in football, and Madden just like took a crap on their ratings altogether. I think the Cowboys are the only team that got ratings good on the offensive line out of anybody. And that's something that I think guys will look forward to this next Madden is because, offensive line was at a premium there for about 2 seasons to start this Madden was at a premium. Guys looking for it. People, 72 overall linemen got paid in free agency.
At that first draft, I want to say like out of the first 32 picks, like 7 or 8 were offensive linemen.
They were. People were trying to find ways to plug and play these guys because nobody had any offensive linemen. And I think that will dictate going into this next one. I think some guys will carry that mentality. I think some guys will think, well, I probably need to go offensive. Offensive line's a safe choice, honestly. You can't go wrong with bringing an offensive lineman, especially a young guy over. Because you get a young offensive lineman in 3 or 4 years, he's going to be solid. Some guys like
it's not sexy though, right? Like, and I think that's the struggle. It's not sexy to pick an offensive line in your first 3 rounds of picks. It's not sexy to bring over an offensive line as an import because they're not going to put up any stats. You don't really notice them. But look at the Jets. I mean, they bring over like probably the best offensive lineman in our league as an import. I mean, that guy's just opening up massive holes for that Jets running game.
You're exactly right. It's not a sexy pick. And you got, I always said, Massimo's one. Massimo is the best promoter of his own players that I've ever seen. He's really good at promoting his own players, and he promotes his import really well.
Mm-hmm.
And he wants a flashy import. He wants his import, his import is Massimo Pirelli, cornerback, fast, he's a star. That's a sexy pick. He picked a flashy Deion Sanders replica cornerback. The Broncos bring over a sexy pick and Nixon, which if I had Nixon, I brought Nixon over too. But Nixon's a beast, Calvin Johnson clone that I've ever seen one. But like I said, I brought over a cornerback. That is I guess you say a skill position, but is nothing real flashy about it. He doesn't do a whole lot. The biggest sell on me was he was a safety, and I had worked on getting his man coverage up to where he could play cornerback. And it's safe to say, after all these years, I just now got him to 90 man after almost 4 seasons this one and 2 seasons of the last one. But it's a personal preference. And like I said, some guys, and I asked these questions on PPO day because I had 3 or 4 guys in the inbox asking me if I was looking at my import already. And, I really don't. And everybody knows I'm not a big drafter. It's not because I don't like to draft. A lot of times, for whatever reason, it just works out drafts. I'm at working nights when they have drafts. But I would like to draft, and I think you gotta pick and choose. If you can get a steal here, this draft, but you got to look at, you got 2 more seasons, at least 2 more seasons, probably this Madden that got a 21, 22-year-old guy is going to be 23, 24. Yeah. He's going to be 2 years closer to getting a re-sign. I think a lot of guys but I think it's a personal preference. If you want to go safe, and like I said, if you guys want to look at Clyde, and picking. I mean, he's got the best interior probably offensive line in this game, and one of them is the import. I don't know his contract right offhand. I'm sure he's getting paid at this point. But that's something you got to look at. If you want to invest in offensive line, it's a not sexy pick, but it will pay dividends. Or you can go with a running back, quarterback. You're going to pay money for those guys, and like I said, they might pay dividends at least a lot sexier than offensive line would.
Right.
But you're going to pay for it, and I think your build on those guys is higher, in my opinion. Offensive linemen starts out the block. Most of them, a good offensive lineman is going to start off high 70s, low 80s. You're hoping low 80s, and maybe with the dev trait, and you can build that guy. That guy can play day one, and he can be he can play. You get a wide receiver in the draft too, and we all say this, and you get you a 97 speed guy, and most guys are going to play them first down. But you get your receiver, a running back, and he's probably going to take a year of seasoning unless you just hit a home run in the draft.
Yep.
So I think it's to each their own. I think it's finding a fit for your team for one. Like I said, you're going to build and play with him for a year or two. But I don't necessarily think going into that last draft we have, and I don't necessarily if we'll know it's the last draft. I could be wrong. I think even last year we played that last season not knowing if we're going to play another season or not. But you got to look at that if some guys want to play as long as they can to keep them young and to keep them cheap. And a lot of times those two things are good selling points.
Yep. Let's move over to some owner-submitted questions, which all come to us from you. And we're going to save 3 of them. One is for Dawson, one is for Maniac, and the one about the shift in power. I want to get the whole crew back next week to be able to do this. Now, just kind of let everybody know I am moving, and so next week the show will have to be delayed until probably Sunday afternoon or Sunday night when I'll do it from our new home. So it's going to be a little bit delayed. It will not be on Saturday because we'll actually be moving Thursday, Friday, and Saturday with the bulk of it coming on Saturday. But we'll do something on Sunday afternoon, and I'm also off on Monday and Tuesday because it's Mardi Gras. And so we'll find some time that fits everybody, and we will make sure just be a little bit more patient with us than normal. But let's go to the questions that you had for me, specific questions around, is this Goff's last season as a starter? I'm going to say no. Goff is an extremely good player. He has been the difference maker for my teams. Breeze retired. We struggled with that next season, and bringing in Goff really has brought some stability. Now, last season, my offensive line really played amazing for about 13 weeks and then completely fell apart with injuries, and it led to me being swept out, even with the number 1 seed, being swept out of the playoffs round 2, my first playoff game against the Falcons, who ended up winning the whole thing. This year, 2 starters went down early for long periods of time, and so my offensive line has been very messed up, and we struggled out of the gate. We got some things figured out and then played the Bears last night, and the wheels completely fell off. It was one of those games that we've all experienced. I know that my good buddy Pootie T over in the NBC believes that there are formulas placed into the game. It's been proven. EA has admitted there are formulas in the game for MUT that will make it very challenging to win many games in a row. It like works against you because they want people to keep pushing and buying new packs and all that fun stuff, which is really wrong on a whole lot of levels. I don't 100% believe that that's in franchise, but it wouldn't shock me if it is in franchise, because I think we've all experienced those games that, and you may have won some of them, but it just seems like really, really difficult. I think the difference in this league is that like you can have those games where it just seems way more difficult than it should be, but the other guy also makes so many mistakes that you still win the game, right? And my game against the Bears this past week was that. And there are definitely some, and we'll talk about it in a little bit, some things that I see as a thread, a common theme in the league when we get to the FPR section that I've seen in this game. But that offensive line has hurt Goff this season. He's not played bad, but he's not doing as I've done in the past, where I've kept those interceptions low, those yards high, and really tried to focus on my running game because that's how my offensive line is built. And with them being hurt, everything has just been a fight. Next question has been, is Fitzgerald. About Goff too. I think people are asking that, right? I think the reason you asked that is because I keep bragging on my rookie. He is really good. I got him late in the draft, like 5th round, something like that, and his stats are really, really good. Like 91 throwing power. I think like 86 deep or 82 deep throwing accuracy, and like high 70s, low 80s, and short and medium. He needs work. He's a lefty. I actually like playing with a lefty. I know a lot of people hate playing with lefties. I know many seasons ago that was a thing. One guy traded for a quarterback, and then first game realized he was a lefty, and then was like, can I get rid of this guy? I want to change him to a right-handed. I was like, no, you can't change him, but you can trade him if you want. But I like playing with a lefty. It just feels different, and I like the feel. I've had lefty quarterbacks before, and I've played well with them. Next question was, is Fitzgerald Hall of Fame material? That's a really good question. I think that he could be. I don't think he's going to get the votes. I think that I don't know that I'm going to bring him with me. I think by the time we get to the end of the season, he's going to be 28, 27, 29, somewhere in there. And it's going to be a little too old to take over with me. I love him. He came out of nowhere. Picked him in like the 3rd or 4th round, best player available, and he has been spectacular for me. He was not my number one threat, but has just worked himself into that role. But with the offensive line struggles, Goff has struggled. With Goff struggles, Fitzgerald has struggled. Especially this year, he's not putting up the gaudy numbers. I think he's been real quiet, and people really haven't taken notice of him unless you play me often like the NFC South does. And so I think there's a possibility there. We'll have to see what he does over the next 2 seasons. He's not Forbes, but, man, he has played really, really good. And then the last one, was I shocked or surprised to get Kamara back in free agency? I was shocked that more people didn't go after him as heavy as I thought that they would. There was only like 2 teams really in the running. And I want to say, like Goff, people started to back out late in that round 1 and actually saved me some money. Like I remember Goff had a he got a fat contract, but he had a really big one. And then people all left like an hour before we advanced, and I was able to lower my bid and save a couple $1 million. And I was actually the only bid on Goff, which was really shocking. Not Fitzgerald. Kamara was the same thing, where I had to keep my bids in there, but I thought I was going to have to pay more. And it was nice to get him back. I struggle with, do I pay a running back? I see what you've done with a lower rated running back. I've seen what Seattle's done with a lower, not a speed guy. So it was a struggle to figure out what was I going to do with him. So I wasn't surprised or shocked that I got him, but I was surprised that more teams didn't give a really heavy run at him. And look, I love Kamara. I love him in real life and definitely like having him on my team. But this offensive line, my top 2 offensive line, my center and my left tackle, have both been out for the last 6 weeks with injuries. I've got another, 3 or 4 weeks without both those guys, and that's hard. It's really hard to run your offense whenever all of those guys are down. Let's talk some FPR. I'm going to let you kind of ramble before we wrap the show up. What are your thoughts that you're seeing? You're one of the main guys that helps me with FPR. Haven't had a ton of videos to watch this year, but what are your overall thoughts about FPR up to this point?
Well, like I said, the videos, I think we have a few of them out right now. Videos have been down this year. I think the reoccurring thing that I see in the feedbacks is, I would say, abusive outside runs. You see a lot of outside runs now, especially, I guess, guys get frustrated running the middle. And there's nothing wrong with outside runs in moderation. It's just repeated outside runs, stretches, tosses. And I reiterate that there's nothing wrong with that in moderation. But your running game can't be an outside run. I mean, this can't be. You can't just your outside runs cannot be your running game. 8-man in the box has still been kind of an issue with some people. And we tried to talk about, I think last time we had a PPL about if I think you even said it, there's nothing wrong with having 8-man in the box every once in a while. But it's really easy to base a line out of some of those zone coverage 8-man in the box, because that's everybody's defense when they get asked about running 8-man in the box as well. Madden put them there. But there is an easy fix out of that. It does kind of throw your defenders off just a little bit. I say throws them off. It just takes them a little bit out of position. That's what I said. I don't think you can tell people to never have 8-man in the box, because I think there's situations where it applies. But it is something that's easily avoidable, in my opinion. Especially if you're not running 4-4 or something like that, or 4-6. There's easy ways to get out of the 8 man in the box. And I'll let you jump on that too here in a second. I don't want you to think I'm putting words in your mouth with that. Those two things have been big on mine. I do think the lurking, the moving around your, I guess you say, getting out of your zone has gotten a lot better.
Yeah.
I think guys are getting a lot better at that. That complaint has kind of fallen out for the most part. There's still some real salty guys after they lose a game. And you'll see some stuff in there. And you watch the game, and I'm guilty of this too. You get salty after a game, you're like, they did this, and you go back and watch it.
And it's not as bad.
It wasn't necessarily as bad as you thought it was. So I think the FPR has gotten a lot better. I still think, like I said, there's still things to work on. I don't think the day that we never have any FPR issues.
That's not going to happen.
I'm kind of scared to see that day. But like I said, the outside runs, 8 men in the box. I'm trying to think if there's anything else that I've been seeing. Those two things are your biggest ones. I'll let you hit on it. But those are the two big things that I've seen is you shouldn't abuse outside runs. And 8 men in the box is still something that, like I said, it's easily fixable. It's a real easy fix thing. You can baseline it. There's nothing wrong with having 8 men in the box. But if we run 10 plays down the field and 8 of them are 8 men, then you're doing something wrong.
Yeah.
But I'll let Nate touch on. Those are two things right now that I've seen in the feedback forums this year. But as a whole, we've done a lot better in the FPR aspect here.
Yeah, I'll say a couple of things. I say, look, everyone struggles with being salty after a loss. Nobody enjoys losing, and it's okay. And look, I submitted a game film on the team that I played recently, and I understand that game film may come back that actually what I thought was happening wasn't as bad. I think I have a pretty good feel most of the time. I think overall the game that I submitted is going to be okay, but there definitely was something that was leaned on. And that goes to my second point of balance. Like, FPR is not hard. It just isn't. It isn't confusing. You don't need a notepad. I know guys like, oh, I got to keep my, I've heard that in the past, right? I got to keep the rule book open so I know. No, you don't. Follow the golden rule, balance. Just don't lean on anything. And I just disagree that guys don't know when they're leaning on something, because you do know when you're leaning on something, right? Like, people know whenever they are leaning on something that they shouldn't lean on. And if you find yourself, okay, I'll say this. Like, you just know, I know, everyone knows when it's like, okay, I'm calling too much zone, or I've called zone the last 4 third downs. I need to find a way to call a man on third down. Like, those things are not confusing and not difficult to figure out. I'll say that if you think, okay, how am I trying to say this? I'm trying to say that if you are saying that you need a notepad to keep track, then you're just not paying attention to your play calling. Because if you pay attention to your play calling and you use your brain, which is what we're trying to force owners to do, to not just be a robot and call all the stuff that you know that works. Oh, it's third long, I'm going to call a cover 2 zone. I'm just making things up. It's 2nd and 12, I'm going to call a shotgun run, right? Because you know that more times than not that play is going to get you the big yards that you need, then you're not using your brain. You're just freaking using plays that you know that works. And in the OMFL, our rules are based to make you think through your game plan, think through how you're going to attack this other player, and to have that with balance. And so if you don't realize that, hey, I now have called 10 shotgun runs this game, I probably shouldn't do it anymore,
right,
then you're not paying attention to your play calling, and that's the whole problem. Like, you don't need a notepad. Right? If you have a notepad for anything, it's because the other guy's doing stuff that you want to keep timestamps because you don't want to go back and watch your film. Then that's on you. Do it your way. I use Coach's Glass, right? And so you figure out what works best for you. But the rules here are not hard. And so that'll lead into the things that I've seen. The two things, one on defense, one on offense. I do agree with you. 8 in the box has gotten much, much better. But guys are still abusing cover 3 zone. That has kind of been the go-to. Cover 2 zone every now and then. I see like one-off owners that's always been a problem with, call a lot of cover 2 zone, but the new cover 2 zone has become cover 3 zone, and that's why you fight with the 8 in the box. Now, guys have learned how to not have 8 in the box with the man align or base align or with manually moving it back, but you're still calling it, right? Like if you watch my streams, I usually talk on those streams. As soon as we come out of huddle on offense, I can call what that other guy's doing. Oh, it's cover 3. It's first down and 8 in the box, and he had to move it back. It's cover 1. It's third and long, and he had 8 in the box, and he had to move it back. It's cover 3, right? Like, it's easy to pick up on. And you know when you've, like, I don't know, Dwayne, maybe I'm just weird, but, like, I know when I've called too much of something, and it's time to mix it up. Like, you just do. You know, okay, like, I've called, out of my last 10 offensive plays, 5 have been slants or drags, and 5 have been post routes. Maybe I should find a crossing route or a comeback route or an out route, or, you know, maybe I should look in another direction, a flat, something to mix this up. Like, you just know when you go to call a play, ooh, I've called a very similar play a couple times here lately, and maybe I should find a different play in my playbook. Or, hey, you know, it's, you know, the third straight third and short, and I've all-out blitzed him 3 straight times. Maybe I'm going to play man. Maybe I'm going to play a cover 2 zone, right? Like, maybe I'm going to mix this up. It's just not hard. And if you want to know how to play FPR, just go watch my games. I mean, I'm bold enough to say that. I don't think I'm perfect, but I think I'm as close to perfect in this league. Go watch a Dwayne game, right? Like, if you want to learn how to play in this league and play straight up FPR that's balanced and mixing it up and like purposely finding opportunities to call man on third and longs, like I do that. Like, you just go watch our games because it's not hard. So on offense, or on defense, it's cover 3 zone. Guys are leaning on it too much. You need to mix that up more. And I'll also add in cover 1 man. Like, those are the 2 calls you see, for me, 60, 70% of the game, right? It's either cover 3 zone, cover 1 man. And yes, you're technically mixing it up between man and zone, but you're still calling the same 2 plays over and over and over, and so that's not really mixing it up. You're missing the point. You need to be calling some cover 6, some cover 2, some cover 9. You need to be calling some straight up 2 over man, some other man plays, right? Which there's not a lot of options for man because man is man, but you don't all have to be. The reason guys call cover 1 man, because that third safety, even if he's not in the box, he's covering a tight end, he's covering a running back, he's covering a fullback. So immediately that guy's going to come help on first down with the run, and that's why you guys are calling it. Like, we're not stupid. Like, you're trying to shut the run down on first down, so it sets up a second and long that you can hopefully play zone on. So you'll see a lot of cover 3 on second and long, which will force a third and long, and you'll see a lot of cover 2, a lot of cover 4, maybe another cover 3, maybe even man on third and long because you got them in a long situation, so you don't care, right? And, like, I could speak all day about this because, like, it's not hard to pick up on how some owners do this, and the point isn't, well, just beat it. That's never been the point in this league. The point is, no, you need to mix up your gameplay or this isn't the place for you. And I don't feel like we're there with anybody this year. It's definitely way down from last year. But on defense, watch the cover 1, cover 3, and mix that up with other plays a little bit more. On offense, the common theme that I see in feedback forums, which even though we haven't had a lot of film to watch, has been shotgun offenses. I mean, look, shotgun offenses led to Duvall leaving the Vikings because he wanted to run a shotgun offense. It's not a thing here. It's never going to be a thing. And I'm going to add in with shotgun, bunch, and closed formations, especially out of 3 and 4 wide, mainly out of, when that tight end either plays as the 4th receiver or it's a traditional 4 wide. Guys are coming out in tight formations, bunch formations, closed formations. Just stop it. Like, it's lame. The defense plays it much better this Madden, but it's still always been broken. Like, when I play 2 over man and you come out in 4 wide, or even if it's a 3 wide with the tight end playing the 4th stand-up receiver, but it's a bunch formation, my guys don't line up over the player that they're covering. No. They're like 4 yards off of them. And so you can't do a base of line because that doesn't do it. So you have to, and you can't manually move those guys in place in enough time before they snap the ball. So my guys are already 4 yards behind the play. You run drags on a 3rd and short, it's an easy first down every time. So unless I manually play a linebacker, and then even then, if it's crossing dual drags, you just have to be patient and hope that your offensive line gives you the time and find the guy that I don't leave covered. So it's lame. And I think that's my biggest complaint on offense is I see guys doing lame stuff too much. 3rd and short, fullback dive. Look, you do that once a game, whatever. But now if the one time a game you do it is in the 4th quarter with 20 seconds to go and you need a touchdown inside the red zone, like, I think it's lame. not against FPR. It's just you're really lame calling that. Like, be a man and call a freaking halfback dive, and let's see who wins here. Don't call a fullback dive, right? And I had a game recently, like in the first drive, I had 3 bunch formations, a fullback dive, and 2 post routes for a touchdown. And it was like, I don't know. It's just it was against FPR, no, but it was super lame. It felt like he was just calling the things that work, and it just was disappointing. And so I'm challenging owners to think better of themselves and just do a better job with those bunch close shotgun formations. Stop it with the shotgun runs. Dwayne is the classic guy, right? If you know that you got Dwayne in a 2nd and long, you better expect the draw. Like, you better come out expecting the draw, and you might get burnt on a play action. You might get burnt on like some other type of play. He may burn you on that, but like, Dwayne is smart. He's trying to get himself in a 3rd manageable. But Dwayne's not going to come out every 2nd and long and run a shotgun draw or a shotgun run. And that's what I'm seeing guys do. Every time you stop them on 1st down, they're coming out and they're going to do I had like 3 3rd and 10 shotgun runs in a game recently. Like, that's just lame. It's just like, we're better than that. We should be a better league than that, than leaning on stuff that works. So my rant is over. Let's put closing thoughts on this whole thing. I'm going to give it over to you.
Oh, you were saying that because you told me. I just want you to know I'm not PA play on 2nd 11, 2nd 12 on you. I just want you to know that. That's another thing we see quite a bit of that I guess you could hit on if you want. I'm not 100% sure it's against the rules, but I thought that we kind of had a rule against running like 2nd, 3rd, and long PA plays.
Yeah, you shouldn't. 3rd and long definitely is a no-no, and that it's clear. 2nd and long is a gray area. If you do it once or twice a game, whatever. You do it more than twice, I think now we've got an issue.
But that's why I was going to just laugh at that one if you said I was going to run PA on them.
No, I'm just saying, you don't every 2nd and long run a draw. So I was like, look, don't go into every game, thinking that every 2nd and long Dwayne's going to run a draw. But you should, you're smart and you're not using. I guess the point I'm trying to make was, you find a way to get those yards without coming out and running, 4 wide shotgun runs up the gut.
Well, I think you want to be predictable in FPR. You want to be a good FPR, but you want to be predictable, unpredictably predictable, if that makes sense. You want guys to know that I'm going to run, I formation runs with Bo Scarborough every other down. And then you want to catch them sleeping. But like I said, guys, and I think you touched on it on running fullback dives inside the 1. I don't think it's against FPR anymore, but it's kind of lame. Or running shotgun inside zone runs, 3rd and 3 from the 4. Just things like that. Me personally,
can't even. That shouldn't even be a thing that I have to discuss. But it's sad that people do it.
Yeah, it's just one of the things where it's not against the rules, but I don't know. It's a tough one. Because I told somebody one day they said something to me on a 3rd and goal or something like that. I'm not going to sit here and say I defend guys that run drags on the goal line or slants. I've ran slants on the goal line before, but I promise you I'm probably going to hit you in the mouth of Bo twice before I try to do a pass play.
Yeah, I mean, look, there's limit. What are you going to do? I can't run a post. I can't run a deep out. I'm on the goal line. Your options for passing are pretty limited.
But if you run back-to-back drag plays against me,
that's a problem.
Yes, if you run, it's a tough situation. I'm going to try to give you a fair shot to stop me for a couple of downs. And I'm not saying I agree. I think the defenders recognize stuff better this cycle than they did last cycle. I think, especially when it comes to quads and trips and drag routes. I think drag routes aren't a complete given. And just so you know, your LSU is going into overtime against Tennessee.
Oh, my God. Okay, we got to wrap this up. My wife is upset at me. LSU's going into overtime. We got to wrap this up.
But that's all I had to say. I think, for the most part, FPR has gotten a lot better. I think we've got – and I reiterated that last PPL that we got a really good group of guys here. And even guys that we've had issues with FPR have become some of the better – I didn't say better FPR. They did a lot better FPR, but they're willing to learn and willing to adjust, and that's all we can ask some guys to do.
That's it. All right, next week's show is going to be either early, like Thursday, or late. So you guys be patient with us. It will come out. It will either come out Sunday night or it will come out Thursday early. I'll get with the guys and see what their schedule looks like. Mr. Dawson is eating tacos in San Diego, so he's enjoying himself. Let me tell you where you can find us, grownfolksoc.com. Oh, let me bring up this over Yep, let me bring up that. And then let me show you guys this. Twitter, Grown Folks OC on Twitter. Give us a follow. We're getting lots of followers. We're up to 685 followers. We've had about 20 in the past week. And that leads me to our other partners discussion, which I'll get to in a little bit. Twitch, Grown Folks OC, tons of videos, 77 videos. Of course, most of these will be my streams, but we also host other people's streams, so you can definitely check that out. And I think here soon we may start hosting some games on League Crawler. We're trying to get back to doing some live commentary games. I think once I get into my new house, that'll become more of a possibility. And the Grown Folks online community on YouTube, tons of videos, thousands of videos, everything from our WWE, PUBG, Madden. You may see some FIFA stuff, some golf stuff, tons and tons of stuff on there. So go give us a like, a subscribe. We're up to 1,462 views, or videos, I'm sorry, and 200 views just in the last couple of weeks. And so I think we're up to 170 followers or subscribers. I don't know. I forget the number, but we're trying to get that number bigger, and we're doing that through other partnerships, which brings me to one of those partnerships, overtimeheroics.com. Make sure you go get you a login there. We're trying to do a lot of our sports talk there. We're going to help them build their gaming community that they have. So there's all kinds of stuff. Go jump in. Super nice guys. We're going to start trying to host some of our podcast over there. So there's just a lot of really, really good things over at overtimeheroics.com. Make sure that you go give them a follow on Twitter. Make sure that you go sign up for their website. And then the last brand new one, let me see if I can pull this up real quick. Why am I forgetting the name? It is... hold on one second. We got a brand new partnership that we've just formed for our WWE League. Now, I know that this is a Madden podcast, but still, we've got some really good things happening in our WWE League. And so we've got a brand new, let me see if I can pull it up. That's not going to work. Okay. See, I should have had this already ready to go, but I didn't. Oh, that's what it is. It's Austin DTA. Austin DTA. That's where it's going to be. Make sure you go follow Austin DTA. He makes these really super cool WWE 2K videos. It's like all of old matches or dream matches, and he's got universe stuff. His stuff is top notch. He's a super great dude. He's part of our Discord chat. He's helping us promote our stuff, so we want to make sure that we help him promote his. He's got 180 subscribers, but man, his stuff is really great. Go give him a subscribe, follow his stuff. So that's where you can find us and all of our new things here in the Grown Folks Online community. It's been a lot of fun, and we're almost to the halfway point in our season 83, and I'm pretty sure things will be fired up. Hopefully the whole gang will be back next time, and we'll have a really good time here on Press Pass Live. So for Mr. D. Wayne, for Maniac, for Dawson, for all the leadership here in the OMFL, thank you so much for watching Press Pass Live. Hope you have a really great week. God bless you. We'll see you next time. Peace.
Later, guys.